All the, oh, thank
It's
you.
new.
That was fancy. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's June 8th, 2021. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, this meeting is being held via Zoom platform and it is being recorded. If anyone's having any technical difficulties, please contact Jamie Lawson at 336-380-7064 or Conrad at 336-214-4515 for support. Tonight's meeting, do we have any public comments for our agenda?
Lori, I was just going to read through the conflict of interest section of the quasi judicial handbook.
Okay.
Question that had come up, and I thought everyone would benefit from it. So before we get started, is it okay if I go ahead and do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So someone had asked a question earlier just about kind of what exactly constitutes a conflict of interest. So we've been looking at that today, and the quasi judicial handbook, which you should all have a copy of. It's a School of Government publication. If you don't have a copy, then Conrad and Jamie can get you a copy because we had ordered a bunch that everyone would have one, but I'm just going to read through the section. It says all parties in a quasi judicial hearing have the constitutional right to be adjudged by an impartial decision maker. Thus, a board member who is biased or has a conflict of interest must not participate. Bias in a quasi judicial matter is when a board member has a fixed opinion prior to the matter that is not susceptible to change. A board member has a conflict of interest if he or she has a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with an affected person, or a financial interest in the outcome of the matter. Undisclosed ex parte communications, which are discussed later in the chapter, are also impermissible violations of due process. A board member who is concerned about his or her impartiality or the impartiality of another board member is advised to consult with the government attorney so that the issue can be addressed in advance of the hearing. The issue of impartiality may be raised during the hearing by a party or a board member. If a dispute arises as to whether or not a board member should be recused, the remainder of the board votes to determine if that member is recused. Then in the disclosure section, which is what we always do at the beginning of each application, it says a call for disclosures should be routine. The board should have a standard point on the agenda or procedure to call for a board member disclosure of conflicts of interest, bias, or ex parte communications. For conflicts of interest and bias, after a board member has identified the reason for partiality, that member should recuse herself or himself and step down. The issue of impartiality may also be raised by another board member or by a party. A recused board member should not participate in questioning, deliberation, or voting. At the very least, the recused member should leave the area where the board is sitting and sit with the general public. Let's see. It is also inappropriate for a board member to participate in a hearing before the board on behalf of a client, friend, or family member. In rare circumstances, a board member may be a party and will have their own due process rights to participate in the hearing. So it goes on to discuss some other components of ex parte communications. So this whole section is really useful to review, but I hope that's helpful to kind of understand when we ask if anybody has a conflict of interest with respect to an application, what we're looking for there.
Thank you. Okay. So for tonight's public comments to address the commission in this meeting, please indicate that you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom or by phone, press 9. And our meeting host will notify me that you wish to speak. Anyone who speaks must give their name and address for the record. I'd like to confirm that all commission members and staff members are on the agenda are present and can hear me. Okay, members present, when Jamie calls your name, please respond.
James Eulis,
Here.
Christina Meinking,
Here.
Brian Pennington,
Here.
Russ Vandermeer Peeler,
Here.
Vice Chair Molly Whitlatch,
Here.
and Chair Lori Brine.
Here. Okay. We don't have any minutes for May, the first item on our agenda. So we'll have those, I guess, for next month's meeting. So is Miss Honeycutt here? Okay. So the first application is for Miss Jean Honeycutt to, for tree removal at 709 Davis Street. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest with this application?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Do you need to swear her in, Jamie?
I'll be able to just present the staff report briefly, and
Okay.
then we could have Ms. Honeycutt sworn in. So Jamie Lawson providing information on the staff report. The information I'm providing is the truth to the best of my ability. I'm presenting item number 1. This is HD 21-023. It is a request by Ms. Honeycutt for tree removal at 709 West Davis Street. Ms. Honeycutt has indicated in her application that she is seeking removal for 2 trees that have been previously removed, as well as a sweet gum tree next to the sidewalk and wall, and removal of the willow oak in an area that she has planned for a future driveway. Included in the staff report are the findings of fact, as well as the map and supporting materials. Staff has provided a recommendation with the approval of the request, with the condition that the large trees be replaced on the property. Ms. Honeycutt is on the call as well, and at this point, I'd like to see if she's interested in. You can promote her to panelist. And Ms. Honeycutt, can you hear me? Okay. She still may be muted.
Ask her to unmute. I've allowed her to talk.
Hey,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay,
Okay.
Ms. Honeycutt, can you first provide your name and your address?
Jean Turno Honeycutt, HUNNICUTT, 810 West Davis Street, Arlington.
And do you affirm that the testimony that you're going to provide, that you'll be providing, is the truth to the best of your ability?
I do.
Would you like to address the commission relative to this application and provide any supplemental information?
I don't know where to start. All right, let's start with the tree that's in the way of the driveway. The reason that I need that tree removed, which I hate to do, is to build me a house where I have most steps. I am 75 and a half. I've had cancer and I have neuropathy in my feet, and so I'm not steady. I am building a house with no steps where I have to go, and that's one reason I need to move from my house now. So that's why the driveway needs to be where that tree is. It won't fit any other place.
Now, Ms. Honeycutt, before you proceed, I have pulled up the pictures that you provided in your application. I'm not sure you called in, so I'm not sure you'll have the ability to see the screen. but if you have your application, we're looking at the pictures as you describe them.
Okay. That's the willow oak. The pictures are marked where the driveway is going. It says drive. There is an arrow pointing to the tree that needs to be removed. And absolutely it will be replaced somewhere. A lot of somewhere. If anybody knows where I live, I have over an acre of gardens and large trees, many large trees. The second group of trees are trash trees that are on the street. The sweet gum balls. Anybody that lives around here knows where they are. They need to go. They're also tearing up the wall and the steps, and I plan to replace the steps and the wall. That would be last on the project because delivery trucks delivering building supplies cannot drive, and they would tear up a new wall. So that would be last. Everything in that row has grown since the lot was abandoned in 1966. And no trees have been cared for since 1969 at least, when the house was torn down on the site. And I would replace the wall and landscape. The other trees that were accidentally cut by my arborist are squirrel planted trees. One was leaning. They called them widowmakers. They will kill people when they fall. So, and then there's some little tiny ones that are growing up under the big, beautiful trees, also squirrel planted, so they will need to be removed. And I think that's it. Any questions?
The ones that you referred to at the end that are little, do you happen to know what condition those are in and what size they are?
They're tiny. I would say from 2 to 3 inches around. They're growing straight up in the middle of a big tree. They'll never grow. They'll never be a pretty tree, and couldn't be moved. They're too tall. They're tall and spindly. They're not getting any sun, and growing up in the middle of the trees, other trees.
By chance, are those trees included in any of the pictures that you sent?
Yes. They're hard to see. Nothing has been trimmed since 1969 at least. There are broken limbs in all the trees. They need to be trimmed. And it's just hard to see. It's such a jungle, a mess, because they haven't been cared for.
Well, I'll just add for the HPC before you guys proceed with any questions that if there are trees that are healthy, that are less than 4 inches in diameter, then those can be removed administratively. So those don't necessarily need to be included as part of this major COA. It sounds to me like I'm not sure which trees, where they are. We probably would need to see more information about that. But if they're healthy and they're under that size, then that can be handled separately.
Okay, good.
Ms. Honeycutt, this is Molly Whitlatch. I just had a question about the driveway. Is that cutting in from Davis Street or from Peel Street?
Davis Street. Peel Street is closed to me.
Okay. And the trees that are along the wall, the sweet gums, what's the condition of those trees?
They're tearing up the wall and knocking everything. They're tearing up the sidewalk. They're a mess.
Mhm.
There are huge wisteria roots all tangled up in the roots of the trees. They're also pushing on the wall. It's just a mess.
Okay.
There's nothing, none of them were planted. They're all just grown since the lot was abandoned.
Okay. And what about the tree? I guess that's in the right of way, the picture that you're showing right now, Jamie, those two little trees to the left. In the
Yes.
right of way.
Mhm.
Are those part of this application or?
No,
Okay.
not that I'm aware of. Ms. Honeycutt, the trees that you have applied for to the Appearance Commission, those are for removal. Those are closer to where the proposed driveway is, correct?
Are you talking about the ones on the street
Yes.
between the sidewalk and the street?
Yes.
There's only one, and it may or may not need to be taken out. But I send it anyway. And it's sort of ugly to begin with.
Ms. Honeycutt, this is Molly Whitlatch again. When the wall, I understand that you're, as part of a separate application, applying to remove the wall and then restore it once you have your home completed.
Yes, ma'am.
When that wall is removed, wouldn't that have a pretty significant impact on those trees? I mean, would the trees be able to withstand the wall removal?
The trees need to go first.
I understand. I'm just trying to figure out if it's even possible. Is it pretty much impossible for those trees to remain if the wall is removed? Would they just fall over if the wall is gone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They're already hanging over the street.
Okay.
They're very dangerous also, yeah. They're hanging over the street. The sweet gum balls are a hazard to anybody walking anywhere and has been for 40 years. I tried it one time.
Yeah.
Nobody walked.
And then kind of the reverse of that question, if the trees are removed, that's kind of obviously going to impact the wall because they're all growing into
They're
it.
so yes, ma'am. They're so tangled up, and the wall is split, is broken all to pieces. Janie has pictures.
Yeah, I have the screen shown with your application that depicts the trees that you're talking about.
And I'm actually familiar with this. It's the wall is leaning out towards the sidewalk
Yes.
in that area. Okay.
And the steps are torn up. I will copy those, and I might have to realign them a little bit with the straight walk coming down. It won't be more than 2 feet, but I will copy them and replace them when we do the wall.
Those are all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you hi, this is Russ. Could you possibly just clarify why the driveway has to go in that position rather than somewhere else along the width of the lot?
It needs to go on the right so that I have no steps at all around the house. The lot slopes to the left, And you'll also run into the pretty trees over there too. But mainly for the elevation so that I have no steps.
Okay.
And another thing about the driveway, I have left 17 feet from the right side of the driveway to the lot line in order to protect the roots of the large trees that are already there. Some are mine and some are the neighbors. But I got 17 feet of root protection that way.
Hi, Ms. Honeycutt. This is Brian Pennington. The willow oak that's further back in the lot, so that has to be removed because a proposed driveway is going in there.
Yeah.
But that application is incomplete and pending. Is that correct?
Like, I'm not sure what
So the
you mean.
application for the construction of the house that included the placement of the driveway and things like that, that application is not approved yet, correct?
No, we're still working on trees. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah,
We have, but I haven't formally.
right. So
We
this particular,
decided to break up.
yeah. So it's the fate of this particular tree seems to depend on the fate of that particular application and how that application shakes out eventually. Yeah.
Yes.
So I wonder if one thing we might consider is delaying the removal of this tree until the commission has the opportunity to review your whole application for the construction of the house and the placement of the driveway and things like that until later.
Well, actually, the house cannot be built unless that tree goes.
Right, yes, surely. But also the house can't be built until the application is approved. And I'm wondering if the commission might have the opportunity to review the removal of this particular tree in light of the whole rest, the whole other application.
I've been working on this since last December. And I've spent a lot of money doing photographs. I have an arborist that works for me. We have done a lot of figuring and thinking and trying other things. So I don't want to do any architectural work. I haven't done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if any of my neighbors are there, in 1999, the plat was done by Boswell. It is incorrect. They need to check where north is. It is backwards. So that's another, they will not fix it. That's another expense that I've had to do, and we're still working on the grid. So y'all will just have to think about it.
So one thing I might propose to the commission is the removal of the trees at the street, which are, I would agree, tangled in ivy and leaning over, and delay approval of the removal of the willow oak until we have the opportunity to review the entire application for construction.
What do you call the entire
So when the
Application.
application that will be submitted to build the house and situate the driveway and the walkways and other landscaping and things like that, the bigger application that will have to be done to begin construction on the house.
That's an awful lot of work, and I have done a lot of it for a maybe.
Ms. Honeycutt, as far as your timeline, at what point in the process would that tree need to come down? What's your time frame?
I would do it well, it's too close to the side of the house, number one. I would do it immediately or first with the other trees because it could fall on the house, could damage equipment, could be a hazard to my men. So I would do the trees first. Well, I've got to get a driveway.
Sure.
first.
But the driveway's not been approved yet. So would you be removing those trees before you submitted your application for approval for the driveway?
No, I've got to get a driveway so we can get in.
Okay, so your process that you're anticipating is remove the trees, come back with your application for the driveway in the house.
No, I'd do driveway first.
Okay, driveway is going to be a separate application.
Yeah. Then remove the trees so nobody gets hurt. And then start construction.
Okay. So would it interfere with your plans to have the tree removal, at least that particular tree, if there's commission members that are concerned about that, happen at the same, whenever you get your permit to do the driveway?
That's money spent on a driveway and then for a no. So that's not going to work either.
No, I'm not proposing that. I'm just saying that the timing be such that if you got an approval to remove the tree today, but the timing didn't happen until the driveway was approved. So that I think the concern is if something in the plan changes and that tree is removed, and then it'll be too late to put it back up. But if we know that, the tree's coming down, you've got your driveway approval, and there's nothing that's going to change where you're putting your driveway.
Yeah, that'll work.
Then I think that may address your concerns about not wanting to put money into it if you're not certain the approval is going to go through. And also the concerns about making sure that's exactly where the driveway is going to go and that the tree, nothing's changed.
Yeah, that'll work. Because you got to have a driveway somewhere.
Right.
So, yeah, I could get the driveway approval and then take the tree down. I would agree to that.
Does that address your concern?
Yeah, I think so. It keeps the tree, it keeps what looks like a healthy tree up until we know that it must come down. And the sort of more questionable trees at the front of the lot can come down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that seems like a good solution. Thank you, Ms. Honeycutt.
Yeah, that'll work. I'm happy with that. Yeah, how do I get, who do I talk to about getting driveway permit? How do I do that?
Well, we can discuss, Ms. Honeycutt, this is Jamie Lawson. We can discuss that separately. I know that you have submitted a major COA for the house and other improvements associated with that. You'll need to come back to the Historic Preservation Commission for approval for the driveway prior to a driveway permit. So that we can talk about that being your next step, subsequent to this meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we still have to get, all right, does the house need to be put on the grid with the surveyors?
Do any of the other commission members have any additional questions for Ms. Honeycutt?
No. I'm just a little confused. She has 2 applications in,
She has
3?
She has 3 applications in. This application, she has the original application that she submitted for tree removal that that this application that we're hearing tonight, I believe, replaces that. And she also has an application in for the construction of a new home and other accessory building improvements on the entire lot. But because this is such a large project, it does seem to me, and Ms. Honeycutt and I have talked about this previously, that it makes sense to sort of look at things in terms of phases, that you may not be seeing the entire application all at once. So this is her her application for the removal of the trees, some of which have already come down.
And from the staff report, that means somebody from the city has went there and looked at those trees and has said, yeah, we think it's okay to take them down. The ones that are on the street, those sweet gum trees.
So the ones that are, so the way that our guidelines currently read, despite the fact that they might be creating a hazard for safety, there's no exception for removal of trees unless they are dead or diseased, to be removed without a major COA over a certain caliber and size. So that's why she's here tonight seeking approval, since none of the trees that she's removed have been determined to be dead or diseased. They might be creating a safety hazard, but we don't have that language currently in our guidelines. So staff has gone out to visit the property. I have gone out with Ms. Honeycutt's arborist, as well as Jason Barnhill, who's the city arborist, to walk the property and have seen the trees that have, that are stumps, as well as the other trees that that she's proposing. I would say, in my opinion, the trees that are, I'm not an arborist or a landscape professional, but the trees that are in the location of the wall are hazardous. The wall needs to be replaced, and obviously the trees wouldn't survive with that occurring. My concern, is that that there be replacement of trees on the property where trees are being removed. So that's why staff has provided that as a condition of the approval.
I absolutely agree. I have many trees on my acre right up this 1 block away. I am a gardener. And yes, things will be improved muchly. You will be happy to see the pretty lot rather than that mess.
If we're done with questions, I had a couple points for discussion. I'm sorry, Lori, whenever you're ready to go.
No, please go ahead.
Well, the two things I wanted to say is one that, the guidelines talk about, healthy trees should be preserved. And, that's generally the standpoint that we look at these applications from. But on the other hand, there is a separate section for new construction, and it anticipates in that section that trees will sometimes have to be removed in order to accommodate new construction, particularly if you think of a lot that is wooded, which this one is not completely wooded, but obviously some trees in some circumstances would have to be removed. The other point that I wanted to raise is that we do have a recent precedent of allowing a healthy tree to be removed for a new driveway construction at the Red Cross building. And that was another circumstance where there was only kind of one place where they could put the driveway, and there was a tree there. And the accommodation that we made was to have them plant another tree someplace else, as Jamie's proposed. So I do think that the guidelines allow us to do that when there's a new construction application like this.
Okay. So I'm really kind of lost tonight.
Is there other discussion from the commission members?
This is Jeannie again. I would be happy to meet with anyone at the lot and walk you through it. It was mowed today, and yes, Jeannie, we sprayed the poison oak and the poison ivy and the poison sumac. But I would be happy to show anyone the lot. I would be happy to show anyone my gardens and what it's going to be like. Only smaller, thank goodness. What the lot would look like, if anyone is interested.
Thank you. So what are we needing to approve here? That's where I'm still.
Okay, so I'd propose that we approve the COA.
Findings of fact first.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
And also, we do have other folks on the call in the attendee list here, so I just want to make sure staff has not received any calls or inquiries regarding this application, but I do want to make sure that anyone who's on the attendee list who's interested has the opportunity to speak or provide comments. So if there's anyone in the attendee list that would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if you're calling in. Now would be the opportunity to ask questions or provide comments on this case. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised or indication that anyone on the call is interested in speaking on this item.
Okay. So the findings of fact for this application start under B1-8. Neighborhood canopy should be reinforced by the street and front yard trees. Appropriate trees should be planted to avoid damage to sidewalks, curbs, retaining walls. New trees and plantings should replace older vegetation and should be properly maintained. All stumps of street trees shall be removed below the surface of the ground. B24, mature, healthy trees should remain intact and undisturbed on a site unless they're causing structural deterioration of a building. A mature tree is defined as being 4 inches or larger in diameter in West Burlington and 15 inches or larger in the Glencoe area. B25, new construction site should be sited to minimize its impact on existing mature trees and their root system, both on and adjacent to construction site. Protective measures should be taken to preserve trees and their root system from the effects of grading, piling of dirt, or parking of construction vehicles. Trees can be protected by the use of construction fences placed as far away from the tree trunk as possible. B26, diseased trees should be examined by the county agricultural extension agent and the city cemetery grounds superintendent to determine if removal or treatment is required. B27, trees larger than 4 inches in diameter in West Burlington or larger than 15 inches in Glencoe, which are dead or diseased, should be replaced with a similar type tree. Where the replacement would cause, except where the replacement would cause structural damage to the building. B28, when a tree is removed, the stump should be ground to the soil, should be level and seeded. And then B2F-2, large trees must be removed, should be replaced with similar in type. Does anybody have any others that they want to add?
I would just add a few findings that the
Okay.
regarding the sweet gum trees is that they are leaning out over the public right-of-way sidewalk, that they may be dangerous and at risk of falling, that the trees would not survive removal of the wall, and that the wall cannot be removed without removing the trees, that the applicant proposes in a future application to restore the wall once the trees are removed. I would also add the finding of fact that the applicant testified that there was thought given into the location of the driveway, and that it was determined that the proposed location is the only suitable one to allow the house to be built in a way that meets the applicant's needs. And that the applicant is willing and happy to replant mature trees as part of her landscape plan to be submitted in the future.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're ready to vote on the findings of fact. Is that right? Okay,
The motion to approve the findings.
okay. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So now we're doing the COA, right? I'm sorry. I'm so out with it.
I think Brian had started to make a motion earlier.
So I would propose that we approve the COA related to the 2 trees at the street, and that we delay approval of the application to remove the willow oak until such time as we have an opportunity to review a COA related to the driveway placement.
Okay.
I would make a slightly different proposal, but I think you can go ahead and ask for a second on that. I think it's the process.
Well, I'm willing to withdraw that and hear your proposal.
My proposal would be to approve the application for the sweet gum trees, as well as the retroactive application for the other trees, and to also approve the application for the removal of the willow oak, provided that the willow oak tree would not be removed until such time as the applicant had submitted and received approval for her driveway in the area that she expects it to go, that would require removal of the willow oak tree. And if something changes, then and it was determined that that tree didn't need to be removed, then it would not be. But I would propose approving it at this time and just delaying the removal of the tree until the driveway permit is approved.
I'll
That
second.
I'm sorry, and I would just add, if you don't mind, that the driveway would be approved through a major COA by the HPC and a driveway permit.
Correct.
Okay. So we can get a second for Molly's.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, so it's approved.
Ms. Honeycutt, can you hear me still?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is Jamie Lawson. So I'll be preparing a COA approval certificate for you, as well as a yellow card. You'll need to have the yellow card visible somehow while work is being done. That just informs the public and others that you've received approval for what you're doing. So in the next day or so, I'll email you or give you a call and let you know that those materials are ready for you to pick up here in City Hall in the Planning Department.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
I am happy. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Honeycutt.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is new business. For a request from Mr. and Mrs. Robinson to remove a property from the local historic overlay district boundary. The property is located at 1004 West Davis Street. Okay.
Yes, and so this matter has not been advertised. This is not a public hearing. Staff, similar to a prior meeting, has forwarded this application to you, the HPC, for consideration, and is asking for you to initiate the investigation report in accordance with our Unified Development Ordinance standards, which fall under section 3.19 E2. I believe the applicant, Ms. Robinson, is also on the call. She's not able to testify, but she's able to introduce herself if she'd like at this time.
She's on mute.
Ms. Robinson, you'll have to take her off mute, Conrad.
I'm off mute.
Okay.
I'm just not prepared to speak tonight. You know, Jamie, we were told that no testimony would be given. I'll do my best to answer any questions about the application if the board has them, but I don't have any formal comments prepared for tonight.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So again, this is just a formality in terms of staff asking HPC to initiate the investigation report for any amendment pertaining to the local historic district, whether it be properties being added or properties being removed.
So I would like to ask a member for a motion to initiate an investigation report pursuant to the process outlined in the Unified Development Ordinance. Okay. nobody's gonna.
Jamie, on this one, if that's okay, if no one would like to recommend or make a motion to move forward with this, in this case, I think it's appropriate for us to, as a matter of process and procedure, for staff to initiate. You don't have to make a recommendation or any direction at this point, but we do have an application presented by staff, so we'll go ahead and we'll need to prepare the investigation report for you all to consider at a later date. So, any questions for staff at all, or?
You're not asking for a recommendation.
No, no recommendation
No,
at this
not a
point.
recommendation at this time. This is the request to initiate the investigation. It's not a recommendation. There's no discussion on the merits of the application.
Similar to what was done with the prior request. It's a request to initiate an investigation and report.
And would this investigation take place separate from the other investigation? Would it be folded into that one? Would it be conducted by the same people?
Good question, Commissioner Pennington. So at this time, we have received some requests for proposal, we've received an application or a request. And I think I'll be soliciting some direction for us to consider adding this request to that report. So that way we could do them concurrently. But at the moment, this would be a separate investigation and report. Since it's a separate request from a different property owner.
I wonder if other commission members have thoughts about the merits of a separate application or investigation, or concurrent investigations.
Now, is concurrent, are you talking about the one we had the previous meeting? I'm sorry, for Mr. Gant, I think. Okay.
I mean, I think the investigations need to be.
Sorry, Molly, what was that?
I think the properties need to be looked at independently.
Yeah, I agree.
We can.
They're different properties. They're categorized differently. Some of these properties are contributing. Some of them are considered pivotal.
In that spirit, in that vein, is it the commission's desire for this investigation report for this property to be conducted separate from the other request?
Yeah,
I'm seeing nods.
But it would be fair, and Molly's right. Separate items, I think, would be a little bit fair. You just can't really judge based off one. So I agree with her that I think they should be separate.
Would it be a concern if it's prepared, happen chance, a separate report, but prepared by the same consultant? Just throwing that out there.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't think there'd be an issue with that. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I mean, as long as they're separate, and I guess with the same person, that might be better than two separate ones and having two different conflicts of information.
I would also just add for the prior applications that each property is going to be looked at independently, obviously.
Looks like Ms. Robinson has her hand up.
I was just wondering if somebody from the board could speak further about properties being designated as pivotal to the district, and just curious about our property in relation to the properties that have also applied for an overlay amendment. Molly made a comment about that and it wasn't really clear to me.
So when National Register districts are designated, they look at individual properties as far as their own individual significance, as well as their contribution to the neighborhood. And properties that are considered contributing and pivotal are the levels of importance that have greater significance than other types of structures. And the issue being that if a historic district loses pivotal or contributing structures, it could potentially be the entire historic district could be delisted, meaning that everyone would lose their National Register status and we would have no further opportunity for tax credits or things like that. So the nature of the properties being pivotal and contributing is something that's going to have to be looked at. But I think, you know, each individual property also is evaluated for their significance and contribution to the neighborhood. So I don't think you can block an entire group of properties together when they have different individual characteristics.
So I think at this time, we would like to, if we can maybe get a motion to direct staff to initiate the investigation and report, that would be appropriate. Okay, hearing none. I think staff at this time will proceed forward, and we'll have it noted that no motion was presented by the HPC, by the commission, and we'll go ahead and process this request and bring it forward to you after its review by the North Carolina State Historic Preservation Office. And you'll see this item coming before you as a legislative component of seeking recommendation that will then go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then ultimately to City Council.
So Conrad, my understanding is that the commission members would have an opportunity to contribute to the report. It's not just what the consultant puts together.
That's not my understanding of the investigation and report. It wouldn't be, that's not my understanding, unless I need to be corrected somewhere. I mean, you would have an opportunity to read the report, of course, and make a recommendation.
I think what the statute says is that the Historic Preservation Commission conducts an investigation. And I think we can assign, you know, a portion of that to a consultant to generate a report, but the report itself, the investigation, comes from the commission. So I think that comes from the history of applications and, you know, other information. And I think the commission has an opportunity to contribute to that. Otherwise, we're not doing the investigation. It's just some consultant. I think that we take the consultant's recommendation and report, and that's part of our investigation.
I think,
The investigation can also include site visits and other, you know, other components. You know, just because we're hiring a consultant to do a piece of it.
But they're not doing a piece of it. They're doing the actual investigation and report for this request. If it sounds like it sounds like and that's really intended to not have you all, the commission, have the responsibility to prepare a report. we're looking at this from a third party perspective to provide you all, the commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission, with a non-biased report that's factual and objective and addresses the items that are required by the state. But if you're looking to have an addendum or a contribution to the report,
Jamie, can
I mean, that can be, we can look into that.
you have the language of the statute?
I can pull up what the UDO has here. But as Conrad has provided, it's our feeling, even though the language has the HPC preparing the investigation report, it's our feeling ultimately that it would be put the HPC in a difficult position to prepare a report while also reviewing major certificate of appropriateness applications in some cases, for properties that you've received an application that a property owner is looking to get out of the local historic district. So we're trying to keep it on a non-biased and open field where there would be a consultant to prepare the report, and based on the facts of the property, the histories of the site, and the area, and the impact of the application on the district itself, as well as the city's comprehensive plan and ties to goals and objectives related to that.
But I mean, that means that the Historic Preservation Commission would have no input into the recommendations that were being made to City Council?
The way that, and I can go back to the timeline, I believe that I shared with the Historic Preservation Commission previously, where the report would be prepared and then come to the HPC with then a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And ultimately, the Planning and Zoning Commission would make a recommendation to City Council, because this is a overlay, treated as an overlay zoning district. It's a legislative matter that they would have the ultimate say in terms of making amendments to the district itself.
So the consultant provides the report to the commission. Is that correct?
That's how it was outlined.
And then the commission reviews the report, and if the commission agrees with it, forwards it? Or you're saying that the commission has no input into the report?
No, my recollection was that the consultant would prepare the report and come back to the commission. At that time, there would be the opportunity for the applicant to present their case and speak on the item as well. So it would be a noticed public hearing where there would be opportunity for the applicant to speak and members of the public to ask questions relative to this. And as well as the commission would be able to, similar to the landmark designation, where you would review the consultant's report and provide your own comments and supplement if you wanted to. But ultimately, that would then be forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, so the Historic Preservation Commission gets the consultant report. There's a public hearing at that time. The commission votes to follow the recommendations in the report or not, or make some other recommendation to the zoning commission. Okay.
It seems to me that just reading the language of the statute, that this is the HPC's purview and responsibility, and at a minimum under the proposed timeline, what we ought to be doing is reviewing a report from a consultant, and as a commission, sending a report, our own report that may include the consultant's report with our recommendations and comment. something along those lines seems to be the clear intention of the statute.
Thank you for your comments. I mean, I think that it's appropriate for the commission to add a supplement. I think our intent is to not burden the commission with drafting an original report, like to Jamie's point of kind of having the bias separation. But by all means, if there is a report or an addendum or attachment or appendix or however we frame it, or as a HPC's own separate recommendation, we can certainly include that as part of your recommendation that would then go forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And there's a technical correction. The public hearing would be occurring at the City Council. That is where the City Council would set the public hearing. So the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission would be having a public meeting, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that would then align for a City Council public hearing to be held by City Council.
Well, I mean, I agree with Brian. I don't think the statute anticipates that we delegate the entire investigation to somebody else. I think that my understanding was that we were still going to be doing some investigation of our own. And specifically, we had talked about doing a site visit. So I don't know why we would be doing a site visit if we were completely delegating the entire report to a consultant. I think we can delegate a portion of the work to a consultant, but that ultimately the commission is the one responsible by statute for preparing this report, which can incorporate the consultant's report. And maybe that's it, but there may be other information that the commission wants to include in the report that the consultant did not.
I might ask for just clarification here. What is the concern about bias that it's been raised by staff?
I agree. I don't understand that concern either. We frequently have applicants come back before us, including applicants that have had applications granted or denied in the past. I don't know why that would suggest bias for future applications.
That's a good question. It's just a matter of, if the report is prepared by staff, solely by staff, then we would have a bias towards the decision.
I don't
If the
think
report
the statute says anything about staff, though. It says the commission.
Okay, well, it's basically a preventative measure to provide you all with the most objective findings that we can possibly provide you with. I think we behoove you as a commission to have a third party prepared investigation and report that can be supplemented with your own findings, your own report, if the commission so wishes. But I think it would behoove you, as well as the decision makers that would take your recommendation into consideration, to ultimately decide to make the decision about this project, about this request.
I have no problem with the consultant. I've agreed with that
Okay.
from the beginning. I think that's a great idea. I just don't think that should be the entire report. I think that should just be the consultant's portion of it. And then the commission, I think, has a duty under the statute to conduct an investigation and to provide a report. And if the commission looks at that consultant report and is satisfied with it, then maybe that will be the entire report. But I think the commission should have the opportunity to be able to supplement or add to the report or conduct additional investigation if they think the report is insufficient in some way.
Yeah, no, and I apologize if that wasn't being clearly communicated on my end here. I think that we don't want to restrict your contribution to a report. Staff is using the opportunity to work with the consultant to provide what you would maybe consider a baseline report that the HPC can then, let's look at it in this light, that you can add on to and form your recommendation accordingly.
Right. So as I see it, the consultant's report is informing the commission, not the other way around.
Correct.
Correct. And staff is providing information to the consultant.
Correct.
Correct.
So what would the process or timeline for the HPC investigation look like? on either request?
So the timeline, I'm not sure if Jamie has a timeline prepped, but in terms of we've got no, I wish I knew better the timelines. Ultimately, we have to have the time to prepare the investigation report. That needs to then go before the commission, then it needs to get scheduled for planning and zoning commission, and then it will need to get scheduled for city council. So
As well as any site visit from the HPC members.
I'm thinking, yeah.
And SHPO.
And the report being sent to the state for their 30-day review and response.
So for this new request, staff is going to, well, based on where we end up with this conversation, I'm assuming, I'm going to kind of think that we would then need to work with the consultant to prepare a report. Then that would, consultants might take up to a month and a half to prepare a report investigation. Then that would need to come before the Historic Preservation Commission. My thought off the cuff here is if we present this report to the HPC, we wouldn't want the HPC's contribution to further delay the process that we have, where we would be going then to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we might want to talk about those logistics,
Well,
or
I mean, I think
what the expectation would
we
be.
need the report in order to determine
Okay.
what other investigation needs to be done.
Okay, so then let's assume that we would then take this to the HPC, to you all, and then you would decide where there was some deficiencies and add your contribution. Then we would take it, I'm assuming we would give you the report. We'd have to kind of come up with a better timeline, because this is a little bit different than what we had originally thought. But then we would need to take it to Planning and Zoning Commission. Without, by the way, I forgot to test. Oh, this is not a testifying thing. I would like to think that we could have something before City Council by the end of the year. If anything, these things take a little bit of time, and we want to make sure that you all have the best information possible, as well as provide the best opportunity for the applicants to have the information that's necessary for the decision makers. They have the information that they need.
And as far as public comment, that will come when? At the city council meeting, the zoning meeting, and the HPC meeting?
Yeah, there would be opportunity for a public meeting at both the Historic Preservation Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then the public hearing at City Council. Hope that addresses your question, Commissioner Meinking. We're working as fast as we can on our end, but it might seem a little bit slower on your end, but we're pushing along.
Will the commission have an opportunity when you're sending information to the consultant? Will that information be provided to the commission?
I think we've
discussed previously the application history, and
I don't think there'd be any problems with that. No. It might behoove the consultants to have your input before, so that way they can prepare. But at the same time, we have some criteria that they'll need to address, similar to what we did with the prior applicant for this one as well.
I guess that's what I was asking, is if the information that the city has, I think some of the commission members haven't been on the commission, as long as others. And so I think it would be helpful for the commission to get that historical information contemporaneous with the consultant getting the information.
Especially with new members coming on in the next month or so. I think a pretty significant changeover.
Yeah, I think staff has developed a good relationship with the commission to keep keep the lines of communication open and information back and forth. So I appreciate that. And I think we would continue that with this process as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Conrad. And I would say just please keep us apprised of developments and posted about what is happening. And let me ask where we are in the process of selecting a consultant. So you said bids had been received. Have they been reviewed at all?
We have not, I haven't had a chance to review them. I got, the deadline was yesterday. So I've received one applicant and staff is reviewing that application. So no other updates at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. So where are we at with this? Are we moving on into the agenda, or did we make some kind of a agreement? We had a lot of discussion that I'm like, what's happening here?
Well, staff would like the HPC to make a motion to support initiating the investigation and report. And I would hope for that to be the result here, with the addition that the HPC have the opportunity to provide their own addendum, as Commissioner Whitlatch discussed. I think that would be if you all would be comfortable with that kind of a motion for the record, that would be a great help for us to amend or to provide your own supplemental information when you all are ready to make your recommendation. Does that sound reasonable?
What do you guys think?
I think it sounds fine. I like Molly's idea. I think we really should have a little more input as that. So I'm all for it with Molly's idea. I think it's really great. And I think it'll work out in the long run and everybody's on the, same page.
Then I'd like to make the motion for staff to initiate the report thing for the stuff. I know that's not the official.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, it's been a long day here. So
Sorry to hear that.
Lori's motion, a motion for staff to initiate the process to hire a consultant to provide a report to the commission to be included in the commission's investigation and report.
exactly what Molly said.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Is there a vote or anything?
I don't know. Do we vote?
Yeah, you have to ask for.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mhm.
Thank
Any
you.
opposed? Thanks.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Ms. Robinson, for hanging out, and we'll be in touch with you soon.
So it looks like our next thing is minor certificates of appropriateness update.
Yes, included in your packet were, I think, 3 minor COAs, just for your information, 2 of which involved roof replacement, and the third dealt with 408 Fountain Place for the extension of time for items that were approved under a COA in 2019. As well as supplementing the previous extension of time that dealt with the window replacements, clarifying that the replacement windows needed to be approved before the purchase to ensure that they are consistent with the major COA approval.
Okay. All right, and then the next thing is about the CLG training. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can discuss that very briefly. So as you recall, I sent out an email that talked about the requirements for the CLG training. There was a recommendation in terms of the sequence of training for the virtual videos through the state. The first recommended training was for the legislative overview of NC local preservation enabling legislation. So I received a couple emails from HPC members with a summary of your thoughts on the training. I personally had the opportunity to view the training as well. I found it very helpful to have sort of the historic background of the constitutional basis for local preservation. I thought it was interesting to discuss that as part of overall, I guess they called it policing powers. There was also discussion about the changes in the land use law and chapter 160D to currently. And I thought that it gave some interesting feedback on the powers and powers of the commission, what types of appeals can be heard, what kind of trumps the COA process, as well as the powers of or I guess the issues pertaining to a demolition within the local historic district. So I thought it was a really good overview from the legal process and legislative process. So I just wanted to give you kind of my own sense. Is anybody else would like to share some of the feedback that they had from the videos?
I can't remember the exact analogy that Ramona Bartos made when she was talking about congruity of the entire neighborhood, but basically to the point that the special character of the neighborhood is not just one house. It's it's the combination of all the properties. And I think she was saying like pixels on a photo. If you just change one, it doesn't change the whole thing. But if you change, take out windows in 10 different houses, then it's the overall impact of that. And I just thought that was a good way to illustrate, because I think that property owners are frustrated on an individual basis if they can't do what they specifically want to do, but that our focus is really supposed to be on the impact that it has on the entire neighborhood.
I liked how there's more resources that you can look into, that they're providing more resources, which helps a lot in making a decision. So I think that's good that they are saying, hey, here's additional resources, and just the legislation changing in general. I know that's probably very rare, but it's helpful to have more resources. So like if I didn't know something, or somebody wants something, they could call this number or it's one say, here's updated. And I like that they're updating they're calling not guidelines anymore, was it recommendations? I can't remember.
Standards.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's more simple and unified. And it shows basically, this is what the state says. So it's not our choice in a way. That's what I got out of it. And overall, it's just interesting. A lot of going on and there was a lot to take in, but very interesting. So I thought it was helpful.
And the people at SHPO really are very available to help. I've called them many, many times over the years.
So in pre-COVID times, when I came on the commission, the only training that was available was in the course of serving as a commissioner. And it sounds like we know for a fact that we have new commission members coming on board. And given that all this stuff is readily available, I really hope we can encourage them to do some of these trainings as they are beginning. I think the things that I've done, like last summer and now this summer online, have really been very helpful and very informative.
Viewing that second video made me think about something, Brian, you were just talking about, the ways in which hearing and seeing that information helped to clarify and give more shape to the experience that many of us had when we first came on, and making sense of process and the guidelines, the standards, et cetera. But it made me think about ways in which we might seek to make the process of coming before the commission more transparent. So even something like cheesy 90-second videos, like what's, how do you go from a COA application to coming, what happens in the meeting, who's there, what do you talk about, to maybe demystify and I don't know, ease some of the seeming stress around the process sometimes. So I feel like people often don't know what's going to happen or what to say. I know the Zoom factor contributes, I'm imagining as in the classroom, the Zoom factor contributes to that as well. But I thought maybe there's some outreach that we might do. Doesn't have to be super fancy, but just super accessible to folks.
Yeah, I definitely second that. And I can also say that that Christy and some other folks from the State Historic Preservation Commission have reached out to us. Nothing has been formalized, and it's just the beginning discussions. It sort of happened, I think, with these different applications that we've received, where they're starting to say, okay, it's time for us to be able to, open the doors and get out into the world again, to offer in-person training and resources to the public. So I think they'll have more information for us pertaining to that we'll share with you. I don't have any specifics yet, but I think the state is is interested in providing some resources to the community as well in terms of outreach. And I've also heard from, I think Faith is on the call too. So I wanted to be able to just make sure that she has the opportunity to provide, ask questions or comments at the end of the meeting. But I know that Preservation Burlington's also reached out to us as well to see if there's a way to partner in terms of some opportunities with them. The last thing that I'll say, since I have the floor right now, is that I'll make an announcement regarding the landmark designation will be listed for the June 14th work session for City Council. So they'll hear the item with a request to put it on for public hearing, as well as the guidelines, both that and the landmark designation will be listed for the June 14th date for consideration for public hearing on July 20th. So so those are good things to look forward to as well.
Great, thanks for all that. I see Faith has her hand up. I'll
Yep,
just
Faith has her
endorse
hand up.
Christina's idea. Like, I think locally produced videos for city residents, historic district residents, would go a long ways towards just like humanizing the process a little bit, and would take probably very little in terms of resources or time.
And Faith can speak to a project that we have coming up.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. The Preservation Burlington We've long thought about how can the organization be helpful in the historic district, and how can we humanize the process? Because I think, and I've told Jamie this before, for normal people that aren't in court every day, the process is very frustrating, and it feels like you're being questioned at every turn, when really it's just an investigative hearing, and all points need to be brought into public record to make sure that everything that could be thought about has been addressed. So we are scheduling, I think right now we have 2 workshops scheduled, one in July and one in September, to have COA workshops. And the intent will be to show people how to actually write an application, and to reference the guidelines, specifically where they are coming up with their reasoning for what they are applying for, and show you guys their reasoning of what they're applying for, and just make it easier all around, and also prepare them for what the process is actually like once you actually go there. So what I had emailed Jamie and Conrad was, what we would like to do is to make an invitation for all the dates. We have dates scheduled through 2022, and have a list of the dates and invite all the neighbors, and hopefully also provide them a copy of the guidelines with that invitation. We would deliver them door to door when we did that, just to make sure that a copy of the guidelines hit every porch. And we're hoping that we'll get a pretty good response from that. But I'm open to any other suggestions or ideas that commission has, to aid us in that process. And if commission thinks it would be helpful to have a representative there, or we wouldn't mind scheduling another one actually at city if we wanted to do something like that. So yeah, just share your thoughts. We're open to anything.
My other thought is, Jamie or Conrad, if you had, tips from staff that you would want us to include in that presentation, we'd certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to add comments pertaining to our guidelines, which, as you know, we submitted a grant and we're still waiting to hear on that. So the other, we haven't gotten back to you, Faith, on your request for copies of the guidelines, because we were talking about, Conrad and I were talking internally about ways to be more paper friendly, and try to think about if there's a way that we could do maybe a postcard with that would provide a link to the historic preservation
With that
website.
QRV code, like a code where you can get the phone and it takes you to the guidelines.
Yeah, exactly.
I had that thought as well. My concern is just that people are lazy, and everybody knows that it's online, but they clearly aren't, really reading them in detail. And honestly, I'll admit that I was the same way until Michelle Kobrick on Front Street actually helped me write one of my applications, and it was kind of an awakening moment of, oh, this makes total sense. Why haven't I been doing this entire time? I was wondering if we could put, like 2 pages onto one page to make them half pages, so that way it'd be less paper. If that would be an option, or we could try to maybe in that postcard or whatever we do to announce it, give the phone number to request one, and we could just say, we'll drop it off just to make it easy as possible if they request a paper copy. Yeah, I don't disagree with the paper saving aspect at all, but I also was trying to ensure that there was no excuse that people, didn't have access to it.
Yeah, I definitely understand the intent. We're just trying to figure out all of the logistics of it. And know that we want to get the message out. We want to get the public informed. But from a practical perspective on a document that is from the 80s or 90s, really, you know, how do we do that most effectively? That's most efficient as well.
If you took out, I know you're probably, if there are electronic copies, they're dated, but I'm just looking through the sort of heft of it. And if the drawings were removed and maybe like there's a sort of FAQ or like most frequent applications that we see, and that's a paper copy that gets sent to people with a link to new construction or things that we don't see terribly often. So I'm thinking about like ways you might decrease the amount of paper, number of pages, but also have information that's likely to be the most relevant for folks.
A lot of
I
white
think,
space in here.
yes, that's the problem. There's a lot of problems. There's formatting that's all over the place. It's not at all in a format that currently that's in a format that is very easily modified. We had the same problem when we were going through it, trying to do find and replace for the guidelines and standards. It's just, if anybody likes to do formatting, this is a nightmare. I mean, I'm used to it from report documentation, and it's not easy at all. But it's almost
code of conduct work. So
yeah, and I wonder, you know, I wonder if it's more like an FAQ that would be helpful to just provide some summaries of things rather than the entire document. But again, you know, we can talk with you, Faith, in terms of what you're looking for and what the city's able to provide.
And maybe it's a hybrid. Maybe we offer people the postcard with the QR code. There's some people who aren't going to be able to navigate a QR code. So maybe we can just have a certain number of paper copies available for people who want it in paper. There used to be kind of I don't know if it was a rule or not, but that you could get one free copy from the city in paper for free. And then they wouldn't give you another copy if you'd already gotten one, but that used to be how it worked.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was some, you know, welcome binder that a property owner would get, ideally from a realtor or somebody who they're purchasing the property from, that's just handed down, that would have, you know, a binder that would include all of the COAs that they had received historically or information about the home. But I personally don't know if that's the case in local realtors or not. We do receive a lot of calls from prospective buyers or in some cases realtors, but I think that they're just trying to do the due diligence, but I'm not sure if that's the majority or they're in the minority of folks.
I would say they're in the minority, speaking from personal experience. You know, Molly made a lovely trifold handout. I don't remember when that was, a couple years ago. I don't know if you guys still have that or Molly still has that, but that kind of explained what you needed an application for, what you didn't need an application for. So you know, having media might be for city to prepare their stuff, and then maybe Press Burlington can alter Molly's document as kind of an FAQ, but we can work it out. It sounds like
I think I know what you're talking about, and we've taken a look at that and can see if that's an option too.
Okay, it sounds like everyone's on board though. So that's good. We're excited to do it, and it's been a long time coming. So
yeah, thank you for including us in that, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversations. I kind of jumped in with other comments and announcements, probably prematurely because it's getting late, but I also wanted to, I think, Lori, did you want to say anything? Putting Lori on the spot. You're on
Mute.
mute. You're on
Okay,
mute.
now I'm not on mute. I just want to recognize Molly. She is now coming off the commission, which I am very sad about because she's been, y'all saw how I did tonight. It was awful. Anyway, we all need to thank Molly for her hard work, every meeting that she attends and can help us facilitate through a lot of these applications and has a lot of good things that we might not see that she sees. And I think we all really appreciate your hard work for what you've done. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you,
When are
Lori.
you coming off?
Very nice.
Yeah, Molly's coming off.
My last meeting.
Thank you, Molly.
End of an era.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have all been great to serve with, and you're doing fine, Lori.
I mean, that's really kind of you to say, but not tonight. Not tonight. Not tonight. And not tonight. I was not prepared. I was not tonight was not my night. I'm sorry. So,
Thanks so much for all your years of service, Molly.
mhm.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for putting up with staff and the change of staff and being a resource to us as we have learned to get to know you guys and work with you, and appreciate all of your hard work on everything that you do with the commission, including, you know, the grant applications and all the stuff that you do behind the scenes. You've been a great resource to me personally, and I very much appreciate it and appreciate all of your volunteerism, and we'll miss seeing you on the commission.
Thank you. I'll miss being here. And I appreciate the way that you guys have changed the format of the meetings, and you've really stepped it up a notch, I think, with the professionalism of, not to say anything bad about the prior staff members, nothing at all, but just the way that you provide the materials in advance, and
Mhm.
I think
Streamlined a little more.
so.
Molly, did you get that letter that I told you about? Did you get to Dr. Thorpe for the new high school property?
I sent a letter. I didn't
Okay.
get a response. But
Okay.
that's not uncommon.
All right. Well, if I need to say something, I will. So I should have told you, I should have told you to send it to Sue Booth, Longy, that's her last name, so that she could also kind of aggravate Todd and go, hey, Todd. And then I could, aggravate Todd and go, hey, Todd. And then go aggravate Samet, and they'll be like, oh my God, they want to, what? Save a tree? No, I'm just kidding. It's beautiful property out there. There's a big silo. Makes my heart hurt that they're going to tear down 2 houses out there so they can have all the room for the new high school. So anyway, what else? Do we have anything else? Are we going to have new people coming on next month? Jamie?
My understanding in speaking to John, although I haven't received any information directly, is that there are applicants that they're looking to fill the slots. And it is one of the items that's listed for the June 14th work session meeting. So, because we happened to be on a call earlier regarding that, and I saw that was one of the items.
Okay.
Does that mean for those of us who sought to renew a term that we'll hear something in a few weeks?
So my understanding is that all of the members besides Molly, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that all of the members who besides Molly, have decided to stay on for another term. And if that's not the case, then you should let John Vernon know that, because he's the one who is receiving the resumes and filling the slots. Planning staff really is not involved with it at all. Although we've provided information and have volunteered to be included, we haven't been included in it. So I would definitely reach out to John Vernon if you have questions on your particular status.
Okay.
Or you can contact me and I'll be happy to try to facilitate something too. But really, as much as I know is as much as I've told you.
Thank you.
And we are concerned about the membership too. So we want to make sure that we have as many members as possible, that there are members that fill the correct slots and the correct, requirements. We want to make sure that there are quorums, that we're not having an issue pertaining to that. So, yeah.
And I know we've discussed this before, but when I attended that, what was the meeting?
The quarterly meeting?
No, it wasn't planning and zoning. It was the one for Pickett Hosiery. Which commission was that?
Planning and Zoning Commission.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they had an alternate. So they had an extra person who is on the commission as an alternate, and they showed up to the meeting. And then once they had a quorum of other members, that person was dismissed. So I think that's a great idea. And I don't know how you bring that about, but I think that would solve some of the issues that we've had in the past, although we've done quite well the past year or so. But before that, we had several meetings where we had an issue with a quorum.
No, you guys have been great. Very much appreciate it.
But is that alternate process a possibility, or is that something that would have to be written into the?
I think it would have to. I don't think that they're currently. I think right now the way it's written is very vague, but we're looking to clarify that and at least just provide a concrete number. I think the recommendation from staff to city council was 7 members, and there wasn't a category for regular and alternate. We can take a look at that going forward. I think we were just trying to get the confusion in terms of all the different numbers and references out there cleared up, to be honest. And I know that language is up for a future text amendment down the road. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to say, make a comment? So is everybody ready to adjourn?
I see a question from Faith, and then I'll let you guys make a motion.
okay.
There was a question from Faith to the panelists. Any word on in-person meetings? And at this time, we're not able to make an announcement for any change. Once that occurs, we'll definitely be the first to let you know, hopefully. We'd like to see you again too. I think my first meeting with you guys was at the Kernoodle Center where we were all in masks. So
Mhm.
It is a real quick word. Just want to thank you all for being so open to meet virtually, and to hold us through this pandemic time. In addition, just ditto what everyone said about Molly. Met Molly when I first came to Burlington from Colorado, and was very consistent with her passion for the HPC. And it's wonderful to see as a employee, as a staff person. It's exciting to see citizenry that's so active in commissions. It's voluntary. And I just want to extend that to all of you all who take time on your Tuesday evenings to meet Your jobs are not easy. We try to make it as easy as possible for you all, but just it's a much appreciated. It's necessary for us to continue to do our work here. So thanks to all of you, and particular thanks and shout out to Molly. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Conrad.
Okay, are we ready to adjourn? Okay. I would like to adjourn this meeting, 8:51. Is that
So
good? Was I supposed to say something else? I'm just so tired. We're on 10 hours here. We're adjourned. I'm gonna quit talking. I'm just gonna quit talking.
So moved.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All in favor, say
Second.
aye. Do we vote for that too? Okay, yes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Have a
All
nice
right.
evening.
Have a good
Good night.
night, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.